Get this, the EU has backtracked on its decision to cut aid to Palestine. So the bloc will now continue to send financial support to the Palestinian people, who are currently without internet, electricity or water. But there are, obviously, worries about whether the money will end up in the pockets of Hamas, which it clearly will. These concerns come as reports suggest that exactly that has already happened. Shock horror. That the European Union helped to build more than 30 miles of water pipelines for Palestinians, despite Hamas terrorists boasting of their ability to forge an arsenal of homemade rockets from those pipes. So, absolute genius, isn't it? A complete and utter genius, this, from the EU bigwigs and the EU boffins, isn't it? Just to decide to essentially help arm a designated terror group. Some of those armaments they can use to fire missiles into Israel, and we end up in the situation that we're in now. I am joined by GBNews presenter Darren Grimes. Darren, thank you. Great to have you on the show. Yet more expert intervention from the European Union, who, may I just say, were very slow to back Ukraine. But when it came to essentially arming Hamas, well, like a rat up a water pipe.
Well, the EU has a good track record of this, right? Because let's not forget that Germany, through its Nord Stream 2 pipeline, was funding the Russians in massive quantities of cash. And the EU has always, I'm afraid, been fast and loose when it comes to ensuring that there's a paper trail when it comes to the taxpayer money being spent, not just within the EU itself, but going to foreign regimes. And, I mean, we look over at President Biden, $6 billion, Patrick, he gave to Iran. And guess where that money ends up? It ends up going to places because they want to eradicate the Jews and Israel from the face of the earth. That's what this is all about.
I know it is. And again, you look at it, Joe Biden, right, do you think maybe we should not relinquish these frozen assets to the tune of £6 billion to, a terrorist Islamist state that wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth? Oh, we've done that, have we? Right, OK, there we go. It does just seem a little bit bizarre from the European Union to have decided to continue to give aid, etc., to Palestine. The Israelis are obviously trying to blockade it there, trying to get some kind of ground incursion on the go, and whether or not the European Union actually support that, I find bizarre.
Well, absolutely, because, I mean, the way in which actually the EU has been forced into this position, it just looks entirely weak, Patrick, because they've seen a few social media comments online, all the NGOs, the big human rights groups saying, oh, this is terrible, how evil, you mustn't do this. Actually, if I was a European Union taxpayer, which we're not anymore, thanks be to God, Patrick, I would be saying, hang on, I do not want my money going to a group which is responsible for the slaughter of babies, right? That is the position that we find ourselves in right now. And ultimately, you saw pictures of coming out of Israel from the attack by Hamas, where there was food rations and things like that by the state of Japan. There were evidently a load of things being used and utilised by Hamas, coming down to even things like basic foodstuffs, Patrick, which are getting through to these terrorist organisations and not going to the people that they were intended to go to, which is the people trapped
this makes a
in
mockery.
Gaza.
This is a good example for me of why I always have an issue with almost any type of foreign aid, right? Because you cannot guarantee that it's going to go to people living in a refugee camp or people living, right on the breadline, wherever it is around the world, the people who desperately need it. And there's no doubt about this, that there are people living in Palestine, living in Gaza, who absolutely need aid, OK? 100%. But when you drop a load of aid over there, or you drop a load of resources over there, or whatever you do, it's almost definitely going to go to the terrorist organisation that runs that part of the world, and not the world's neediest people that are there. And lo and behold, we end up in this situation